focus on like what really makes you happy when you're working and when you're creating. That's when you're going to feel the most confident. Practice constantly. Figure out what you really love and just kind of forget the rest if you can.
Welcome to Artist Date. Today I'm thrilled to have Erin Crooks joining me. Erin is a photographer with over 15 years of experience, and she brings a wealth of knowledge about navigating the challenges and joys of building a creative business. In this episode, we dive into Erin's unconventional journey from discovering photography by chance to becoming a self-taught artist while balancing life as a young mom. We talk about the evolution of confidence in the era of social media, the power of personal work, and the importance of sustainable workflows. Plus, Erin shares her insights on pricing, boundaries, and creating a business that supports the life you love. Let's get into it. Hey, Erin.
Hey, Nicole.
I'm really excited that you're here today.
Thank you. Me too.
Maybe you could just share a little bit about who you are.
Sure. So my name's Erin Crooks. Who am I? I am born and raised in Saskatchewan. Grew up in Moose Jaw. Moved to Saskatoon. Feels like a million years ago now. To pursue fine arts. At that time, I didn't have a camera. Wasn't taking photos, but I started out I wanted to be in the theater. That slowly trickled away as I did discover photography. But I was in the fine arts program at the U of S, did that for nearly 2 years. And at that point I was like, well, I'm kind of playing arts and crafts here. I was making sculptures out of utensils was one of my classes.
Interesting.
Like, oh yeah, it was interesting, but not worth tuition. I would say.
Yeah.
I loved the art history part of it, so that kind of showed me a little bit about just different areas of art and the culture. And really drew me in when we started art history with photography and a film class along with that. So anywho, like I said, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go with that. So I did drop out. And in that same time, I got a camera, started shooting. And that's kind of how I got to where I am now, which was just a fluke.
Wow.
Kind of fell into it and never stopped.
Yeah.
So I've been doing it for 15 years. I have 2 kiddos. So I feel like I have the most amazing career that allows me to technically be a stay-at-home mom and work my business around the lifestyle that I have with my kids and my family and just do all the things that I really love.
That's amazing. Yeah. And what has your journey been like as a photographer? Like once you kind of jumped in and you decided this is what it's going to be, what has the journey been like? Has it surprised you, or what has surprised you about it?
Everything.
Yeah.
So one thing I don't talk about a ton is like my very start in it. And because it feels so long ago, and just such a different place in my life that I was in, I was 18 or 19 when I first got my camera. I guess 19 when I dropped out of university to start doing, like working here or there, doing photography. And the fun thing about it at that time is I feel like when I first started, and at that point, what was it, like 2009, 2010, I was more confident then in what I was doing than I am now. And I think about that a lot because I think at that time there was no social media like it is now. So really, I was the only one seeing my work, and we shared it on Facebook, and no one was really a photographer at the time. So I feel like it was kind of just me and a few others. I didn't see other photographers from around here. So my confidence was heightened. Whereas I think if you start now, you're bombarded with so many photographers, so many accounts. It can be very overwhelming. We all have imposter syndrome now. Whereas like back then, I was just like, oh, well, it's me making art. I like this art. I'd never seen anything like it. So even from the very beginning, like I still do a lot of this now, working with models and doing portfolio work and fashion style work. That's how I started. I would dress up my sister, my friends, and just create photos that were fun. And I was obsessed. So I was hooked really quickly. And so kind of tying back to where I started this is I was really doing it just for fun. But right after I turned 21, I think I'd been 21 for 1 week, I gave birth to my daughter. And so unexpectedly, like dropping out of university and then unexpectedly becoming a very young mom really put me in this place in my life where I felt like I, of course, hadn't done the things I wanted to do yet. I didn't get to experience my 20s as a young person and kind of go into think about whether I wanted to start a business in photography or not. So once I had my daughter, I really had to sit down and think, like, as I said to myself, like, I really want to still have a life where I'm doing something that I love.
Yeah.
And I get to stay home with my baby. And of course, at the time, like, I was not a business person. I had no business experience. I basically had like one job in my entire life. I really didn't know how to run a business, or even that photography could be a full-time business. Mm-hmm. So there was definitely a lot of downs and ups, but
for sure.
It really taught me perseverance, and having my daughter, knowing I had to take care of us.
Right. Yeah.
So,
it's almost like the pressure.
Yeah.
The pressure is on now. It's like not so much. It's not just you. It's like you have to take care of another human and support them and really make this work.
Yeah.
Right?
And so at the time, like, I felt so lucky, I guess, that I was doing something on the side that I really loved.
Yeah.
And so it was just like figuring out, how am I going to make this into a job?
Right.
And like I said, social media was non-existent. And so it was a lot of word of mouth, a lot of just putting myself out there and networking and meeting some amazing people in like kind of our peer industry. So makeup artists, hairstylists, all the things, and making connections that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's interesting what you said about, social media and having more confidence at the start, because you're right. Like, you were probably taking more chances and like unafraid.
Yeah.
And do you ever find like you fall into the comparison trap, and then that just kind of stifles, creativity to some point, right?
No, it does for sure. Like, I think back then I would take a picture of chipping paint on a wall and be like, this is art.
Yeah.
This is the most amazing thing anyone's probably ever going to see, and post it so confidently.
Yeah.
And like, I wish I could show the photos of like the first model test shoot I did.
Oh my gosh.
Hilarious.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I was like, this should be in Vogue. Like, there was no one to really compare my work to. I was like, well, I see photographers in magazines. Obviously they're good, but I am also so good. There was just, there was nothing to compare to. Whereas I feel like now, you're obviously, I think now, people starting out in photography, they have so many more resources and community and all of those things that didn't exist back then. Yeah. But now you do have the added on struggle of, comparing yourself to others in the industry, and then holding back and only posting the things that you feel are very, very perfect.
Right.
Only posting the things that you feel might be unique, or they look like everyone else's. Like, it's such a balance where people are losing what makes them and what makes their art theirs, because they're either trying to be like everyone else, or they're too scared to show what their art really is.
Mm-hmm. And they're like curating their own work, to kind of make their feed look a certain way. Yeah, I find that I fall into that trap.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. No, so do I.
It's tricky. And I know, like, at the beginning of social media, like Facebook, for example, we were just like posting randomly, and it could just be like, what we were eating for lunch. And it's like, it's changed so much. It's almost, I don't want to call it like a little bit snobbier, but in a way it is kind of like, you have to, in order to stand out, you need to kind of put like your best work forward. Yeah.
It's like now aesthetics is basically everything over
kind
of the story behind what you're making, or just doing something for fun and because you love it.
When you were starting out, did you have a mentor? Did you have anyone that kind of like showed you the ropes, or like, how did you learn? How did you teach yourself how to, use lighting, or, there's just so much that goes into photography more than, using your camera. How did you learn?
I would say I'm entirely self-taught.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Kind of going back to that very start. So back in like 2009 to 2011, 12, because there wasn't the community that there is now. And I kind of found at the time that anyone else that was a photographer at the time had been doing it a lot longer. And again, like it was just so different. Like, people weren't willing to share advice.
Gatekeeping.
It was everything was a locked up secret.
Yeah.
So I do remember reaching out to a few like experienced photographers at the time that were in the city or in our province, and getting crickets or being told like, no, I'm not going to share that with you. So I wouldn't say I had any mentors in person or that I knew and could even just get together with and talk about photography. Like it just didn't exist. So I do think I kind of dove into a little bit of blogs and whatever I could find on YouTube. And again, it was very minimal. But so I would say I'm entirely self-taught, just tons of trial and error, testing things out and just working on something every single day.
Yeah, it's not even just the photography side. It's like the whole business side. And that kind of leads me into like you created this amazing resource for photographers to kind of help them along in their journey, the workflow workshop. And maybe you could just share a little bit about that.
Sure. So a few years back, I had this just like pull at me that I wanted to make something that was obviously photography related and just kind of expand my business that way. But I've always been really passionate about helping others. And I think that comes from how I started and not having anyone willing to give advice or share some of the ins and outs of what it's actually like for the business.
Yeah.
And then so I wanted to make an educational resource. I know that online and Instagram and everything, there's tons of advice on how to actually like use your camera and take photos. And once you have those basics down, the rest I think has to come from, you have to have like an eye for it. And so I don't want to teach someone like how to create photos. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I think it's amazing when we teach, like you teach a lot of posing and things like that. People need to see that hands-on, but I think for them to develop skills as a photographer, you need to just do it. So I wanted to create a resource that tied back to when I got started and the help I would have wanted to have, the amount of years and failing that I could have surpassed if I could have had a resource like the workflow workshop that I made. So essentially, it just takes an aspiring or new photographer or someone that's just feeling they know how to use their camera, but they're feeling really lost in where to start to actually create a business that has a foundation set that they feel confident. They know who they're marketing to and what kind of work they want to make. So they're able to create work and promote it in a way that's going to draw in the clients that are aligned to what they want to be doing. They understand the programs, the software, the systems that are going to help them stay organized, because that's a huge thing. And that was one of my huge struggles for years and years and years, was staying organized and keeping up with things like all of your client communication, your bookkeeping, your website, like all the things. And so it's a comprehensive course. It's going to just teach them the ins and outs.
I really wish that was around when I started, because I started a photography business like most of us do with the intention of being like, this is something that I enjoy. And you're going to pay me some money for it. And then you'd get the money. And it's like, I think the first piece of software that I had for my business was QuickBooks. Yep. And then, would enter it into QuickBooks, but it turned out I was completely doing it like ass backwards. But yeah, like you said, there's just so much that goes into it, like the CRM softwares. And not only that, like there's editing, there's just so much that goes into running a photography business. It can be so overwhelming. And the trap that I feel like a lot of photographers fall into is the overwhelm, and they're shooting all the time, and for not enough money. And then they still have like all the business end, and it just becomes too much. So to have like a resource where it kind of shows them how to like run their photography business or set up like a workflow that is like, a sustainable model.
That's like the biggest key word I use in it is like it has to be sustainable, or you're going to burn out. You're not going to enjoy what you're doing anymore. And that's why I think we get into this. We're so lucky to make art with cool people. For a living. And so if you want to enjoy it that same way, you have to be set up.
That's so great. Well, we'll link it in the show notes below. So what do you feel like was your biggest challenge that you've faced in your 15 years in a photography business?
Oh, there's a lot of them. I would say like definitely the biggest would just be getting started.
Yeah.
So yeah, starting out, I think would have been the biggest challenge was just figuring out, like we just talked about with the aspects of my course, like all of those things. I figured that out over the course of like a decade.
Yeah.
And so lots of that. Yeah. What do you think is yours?
My biggest challenge?
Turn the question on you.
Yeah. I would
that.
just say, it sounds so like cliche, I guess, but the balance, just not working myself to death. It's hard when you enjoy something so much and you have so much to learn and it's just you. And if you have a free second, there's also like this guilt that follows where it's like, oh, I shouldn't be enjoying this puzzle with a glass of wine. I should really be doing my bookkeeping right now or editing the 10 projects that clients are waiting for. Yeah. I would say that. I would also say that pricing has been a challenge, like to figure out how to price my work and then how to be confident enough to charge that.
So true.
And be okay with people not choosing me, And I think that just comes with maturity as a photographer. But I would say, like there's so many challenges.
So many things. Yeah, the pricing is a big one.
Isn't it?
It is.
And do you talk about that
I talk about pricing a little. Yes, I do cover that in my course, but it's a hard one as we get to be those more, like someone of them said to me once, oh, you're pretty old. You're one of like the OGs. I'm like, oh, am I already there in Saskatoon? Thank you.
That's really funny.
But as we do get to that point with our experience level, you have to price accordingly. Or again, we go back to it's not a sustainable business if you are not valuing yourself and sticking to it. And I think that I found like people that understand the experience they're getting from someone that has been in the industry longer, they are willing to, they understand for the most part that it's going to be an investment, and that's what it is. But if you get stuck, so if you're newer to photography or you've been doing it for years and you get stuck, like saying yes to discounting every shoot just to take the job, those aren't your clients.
No,
and your business isn't going to grow.
No.
If you can't hold yourself to what your value is.
Exactly. And being able to be comfortable enough to say no.
Yes.
Or if that doesn't align, and then also just having those boundaries.
Yeah. Boundaries are huge.
So important. But it takes confidence. And especially as a photographer starting out, you're still trying to find your footing. And so it's scary because it's like, okay, I'm sure it was for you when you were starting out and you had your little girl.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, I have to make money. But like,
back then it was anything.
Yeah,
I would shoot literally anything.
Yeah.
So it gave me a chance to explore what things I did want to photograph and didn't because I did it all.
Yeah. Are there any styles of photography now that you don't like? You say no to? Like if an inquiry comes in, are you like
definitely like I don't shoot boudoir. I will send that recommendation to Alicia Murray if I get any here.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I'm like, that's what she does. So anything that it comes in that honestly I know that there is someone that specializes in that and I would be more than happy to give that recommendation, then I do. I primarily photograph women. So if I get an inquiry, like, sorry guys, but if I get an inquiry for like men's headshots, I typically don't do them.
Right.
Just because it's not an area that I feel super confident in. So again, that's something I would recommend to, I would send the referral to someone else. I don't shoot, let's see, like the posy newborns.
Right.
Things,
Yeah, like pet photography.
No. I love dogs, but no, not my thing. So
those are definitely like niche aspects.
100%.
And the people that do work on those and focus on those are like, they're just crushing it. And
Absolutely.
I'm the same way. Like if a client wants to come in with a dog, sure, that's great. Like I would love that, but it's not necessarily like I'm taking on, pet portraits or anything like that. But and that just takes time and confidence as well to like know in yourself that I can do this, but it's not necessarily what I'm best at or strong at. Yeah. And going back to business, what are some tools that you feel like you couldn't run your business without?
Oh, HoneyBooks for sure. Couldn't do
Amen.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I only discovered HoneyBooks like 6 years,
I
5
feel
or
like
6.
I'm
like
new to it too.
Not super long ago. And I'm like, what was I doing before?
Right. And what were we doing
I have no
before?
idea.
Yeah.
So that's my baby. Obviously Lightroom. And and Kartra.
Ooh, what's this?
Kartra is it's my host program.
Yeah.
It holds my online course. It holds my digital products. So I also sell presets and
Amazing.
templates to create like client guides. It hosts my email marketing list.
Oh,
so I can do my
wow.
email campaigns from there. So it's just a hub for all of these things so people can have a membership to the course and access these other offers from there. So Kartra is my third biggest one. Probably it might even be bigger than HoneyBooks.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. And what do you use for like an accounting software? Do you have an accountant that you...
Bless my accountant.
Yeah.
She's one of my best friends, so she gives it to me straight when I'm
Nice.
when I'm slacking.
Yeah,
but
keeps you in line.
100%. So I use QuickBooks still just for a few things, but mostly HoneyBooks. I think it has great accounting features in there. So a little bit on QuickBooks, mostly HoneyBook, and then again, bless my accountant for keeping it organized for me.
You're going to need that accountant.
Yeah, she's a good one.
Where do you see your business in like 5 to 10 years, or where would you like to take it?
Yeah, I try to sit and think about that a lot, and I do like to dream, but honestly, with my business, the one thing I really want is to just slow down a little bit. I feel very the one thing I love so much about this business is that being a mom, it's allowed me to still have so much time with my kids. And I just want that to continue.
Yeah.
I like that I can, take them to school and pick them up at the end of the day. And I can be at their activities for the most part, except for in the fall. If it's an after supper thing, then I'm generally working. But golden hour.
Yeah, I know. Gotta take advantage of that.
100%. So I love the flexibility that it's allowed me for. I've been a mom for 13 years now, which is so crazy.
Wow.
And I get to be there for all of that. So that's one thing I hope is that it just continues to grow where I continue over the years with more experience to be more selective in what I'm shooting and what I'm taking on so that I can prioritize my family. I feel lucky that I get to travel a fair amount with my work. And I guess I would love to check off a few more bucket list places with my work. Other things like I have a group of girlfriends in Calgary, actually, and we've hosted a few of these destination retreats, and they are aimed at female entrepreneurs. They come, they learn. So my friends are business and branding coaches. And so these women come, we've done Tulum and we've done Banff, and these women come and they learn so much about how to grow their businesses and their confidence, and the entire thing is captured by me. So they go home with tons of B-roll, but then they each get their own very curated specific shoot to their business.
That's great.
And that like I said, we've only done 2, but they're incredible. And so that's another area that I would love to expand in and do more of those. So yes, you get to go somewhere beautiful and unique, but you're actually making a really big impact in other female entrepreneurs' lives.
Yeah.
So a bit more of that too.
Don't you find that the connections that you get from those sort of things are just so valuable, and just being able to maybe vent or just share insights?
Yes.
Yeah, I've really found that just having access to those sort of opportunities is just so worthwhile. Yeah. So do you have one coming up? Is there? Not
right now, but I'm going to Calgary next week for work, and I'm going to get together with the girls and we're going to talk about what's next.
Yeah. That's super exciting. Yeah. I think I want in.
Yeah. That. Oh, it's amazing. It's so good.
So what is a dream project or a story you've always wanted to capture but haven't yet?
See, I feel like I should just be like rattling these off. But I'm not sure. The way I like to work the most is honestly having get together like my best friends that happen to do makeup and happen to do hair and styling and having like a bit of a concept, but not really a plan.
Right.
I like working spontaneously.
Yes.
So if I could have in my studio, like honestly, 3 times a week would be ideal. Might get a bit much over some time, but if I could do like 3 days a week where we just came together and there's no pressure. So there's no one there's not a client job. It's just getting together. And like, I guess that ties it back to as when we're brand new and when we're getting started, you have to create personal work in order to grow and figure out what your style is. If I could just do personal work every day, it would be amazing.
Right.
We know that doesn't pay the bills, but that would be like my dream. But so for a specific kind of concept to it, I don't really know.
Is there a celebrity or like a person that you would love to photograph?
Right now would be like Sabrina Carpenter.
Oh yeah, she's a babe, and she's totally your style.
She just has such a unique, cool look right now. I think that would be so fun.
Yeah, you should chase after that dream, see what happens. What do you think the key to success as an artistic business owner is?
Yeah, I think kind of like what I just said about personal work is just always remembering like who you actually are and why you started your business. Like we talked about before with how, the imposter syndrome and comparison of social media right now, if you can try, which is very hard, but if you can try and just forget that and focus on like what really makes you happy when you're working and when you're creating, that's when you're going to feel the most confident. Like block out everything else and what everyone else is making and doing and what the trends are. But I think if you can really focus on, like what makes you happy, what makes you get excited and feel confident about it, you're just going to be more successful because it's going to feel aligned and true to you and not like you're trying to be somebody else.
Right.
So I would say just practice constantly. Figure out what you really love and just kind of forget the rest if you can.
That's good advice. Do you feel like if you were to go back that you would seek out a mentor? Do you feel like if you had a mentor when you first started, like that would have got you further faster?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like I think if I was to have started more recently, 100%. I'm a huge advocate for having a coach, having a mentor, being in some sort of program. Over the years when I have personally put myself into like online mastermind programs, that's when I have felt the most confident, and it goes back to having that community. So it's not always that I've learned a million things from the mentor or the leader of the mastermind itself. It's that community and hearing from other women in business and their struggles and like what makes them really excited. And there's always something you can learn from somebody else. So I definitely like love mentorship right now. And I think if I would have had that opportunity 15 years ago, huge game changer.
Yeah. And do you think that's something, do you mentor other people?
So on and off, I do. I would say my biggest thing is my workflow workshop. So right now it's just been running for a while as a self-study, but I'm going to probably start it up in January. I do once or twice a year run it as a mastermind as well. So then that's an opportunity for over the course of like 6 to 8 weeks, it generally is, for the students to be able to talk weekly. So again, that's in an online group setting, so like Zoom or whatever it is. And I feel like you get the most benefit that way when you can be vulnerable and ask your questions and just connect with others that are feeling and going through the same things as you.
Yeah. What is a mistake that you made early in your career that taught you a valuable lesson, and how has that shaped the way you work today?
To kind of on the business side of things, I'll try and think of a creative one, but very beginning of it, I didn't know you needed to save. I didn't know you needed, GST numbers and a CRA account and all these things. And I really screwed myself over in those first early years.
I did too.
To the point I almost gave it all up because I was like, this is crazy. And I messed up big time. So if you're an entrepreneur in whatever capacity, learn.
Yes.
Learn about the taxes and be ready that way because it's hard.
I also made that mistake. I wasn't charging PSD and I had no idea. And so
No, same.
they came after me and they're like, you owe us all this money. And I was like, I don't have that money. What do you mean?
Yeah.
And so just understanding like, what taxes you owe. Okay. If you're listening, photographers, and you're starting out, you need to be charging like both taxes.
And you can hear it. Like I was told two different things. I was told by one accountant that apparently used to work in CRA that because we're service providers, you don't have to charge PSD.
Right.
Everyone else said you do.
Yeah.
And so I went through the same thing.
Oh, geez, it hurts. This has been so great, Erin. Thank you so much for chatting with me today and bringing your insights and all your knowledge. You're very well respected in the industry, and I'm just honored that you'd be here with me today. So thank you so much.
This was so exciting.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Artist Date. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to subscribe and leave a rating. It really helps more creatives like you discover the show. Don't forget to follow along on Instagram at Artist Date Podcast for behind-the-scenes updates, inspiring content, and more. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Can't wait to connect with you again soon.